Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Dallas Cowboys are about to make moves that could shake the entire NFL to its core, and an ESPN insider just pulled back the curtain on Jerry Jones's master plan. We're talking about a potential $100 million salary cap explosion, franchise tag drama surrounding the league's hottest wide receiver, and decisions that will either catapult America's team back to glory or send them spiraling into another decade of mediocrity. This is the kind of behind-the-scenes bombshell that changes everything, and if you're a Cowboys fan, you need to hear every single word of what's about to go down in Dallas. Right now, as you're watching this, the Dallas Cowboys find themselves in what can only be described as salary cap hell. According to the latest reports from Over the Cap, Dallas is currently sitting a whopping $39 million over the salary cap threshold. Let that sink in for a moment. $39 million in the red before they've even thought about signing a single player, bringing back key contributors, or addressing the glaring holes that plagued them throughout last season. This isn't just a minor accounting issue that can be solved with some creative bookkeeping. This is a financial crisis that demands immediate and dramatic action, and Jerry Jones knows it. But here's where things get absolutely insane. ESPN insider Todd Archer just dropped a comprehensive report that reveals the Cowboys aren't just trying to get under the cap. They're preparing to completely restructure their entire financial approach, potentially creating upward of $100 million in salary cap space through a series of aggressive contract maneuvers that would make even the most seasoned NFL general managers nervous. We're talking about restructuring deals for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, Osa Odigizua, Deron Bland, and Jake Ferguson. Every single one of these contracts could be manipulated by reducing base salaries down to the league minimum and converting that money into signing bonuses that get spread across future years. The mathematics here are both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The Cowboys currently have contracts totaling approximately $330 million in cap commitments. The projected salary cap for this upcoming season is conservatively estimated to land somewhere between $295 million and $305 million. That means Dallas needs to come up with at least $30 million just to get under the cap and avoid penalties. But that's just the baseline. That's just to exist. If they want to actually do anything meaningful in free agency or secure their own players, they need significantly more room to operate. And this is where George Pickens enters the conversation as the single most important domino in the entire Cowboys offseason. Todd Archer's report made it crystal clear that every major decision the Cowboys make this offseason begins and ends with what they decide to do with their star wide receiver. Pickens is set to become an unrestricted free agent, and the franchise tag for wide receivers is projected to cost approximately $28 million. That means if the Cowboys want to prevent Pickens from testing the open market and potentially landing with a division rival, they need to find not just $30 million to get under the cap, but closer to $60 million total to accommodate the franchise tag hit. Now, the Cowboys essentially have two paths forward when it comes to Pickens, and each one dramatically impacts everything else they can do this offseason. Option one is to slap the franchise tag on him, which would cost around $28 million for a single season and give them more time to negotiate a long-term deal, but also runs the very real risk of alienating their best receiver and potentially losing him next offseason when this entire drama plays out again. Option two is to bite the bullet and sign Pickens to a massive long-term contract right now, which would likely require an investment north of $120 million over 4 years, averaging more than $30 million per season. That kind of commitment would immediately eat up a huge chunk of their available cap space, but would secure one of the league's premier young receivers for the foreseeable future. The wide receiver market has absolutely exploded in recent years, with elite talents commanding contracts that would have been unthinkable just 5 years ago. Pickens is without question the best wide receiver available in this free agency class, and his market value reflects that reality. If the Cowboys allow him to hit the open market without the franchise tag, they risk losing him entirely to a team willing to make him the highest paid receiver in football. But if they commit that kind of money to him now, they severely limit their ability to address other pressing needs on the roster, particularly on a defense that was absolutely torched for much of last season. Jerry Jones himself has been characteristically cryptic about his plans, offering up one of those vintage rambling statements that somehow says everything and nothing at the same time. He mentioned the possibility of busting the budget as he chases his stated goal of becoming the owner with the most Super Bowl wins when his career is done. Right now, Jones sits at 3 Super Bowl victories, trailing New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, who has 6 rings. Jones desperately wants to add to his legacy, and he's willing to make bold financial moves to get there, but he's also been burned before by overcommitting to the wrong players at the wrong time. In a recent press conference, Jones delivered this masterclass in non-commitment. He said he doesn't want to sound optimistic by saying the Cowboys will be active in free agency only to disappoint fans by not following through, but that if opportunities present themselves in free agency and if there are multiple opportunities, Dallas will take advantage of being in better financial shape than expected. Translation, maybe they'll do something significant, maybe they won't. It depends entirely on how the dominoes fall and whether the right opportunities align with their financial capabilities. This is the Jerry Jones paradox that has frustrated Cowboys fans for decades. He talks a big game about wanting to be the best and having the best, but when it comes to actually making the tough decisions and writing the big checks at the right moments, he often hesitates or goes in unexpected directions that leave everyone scratching their heads. He's simultaneously the most aggressive and most conservative owner in the league, depending on which day you catch him and which way the wind is blowing. But the financial gymnastics required to create this mythical $100 million in cap space come with serious long-term consequences that cannot be ignored. When you restructure a contract, you're essentially kicking the financial can down the road. You're converting current year salary into signing bonus money that gets prorated across multiple years, which creates immediate cap relief but dramatically increases future cap hits. This strategy works beautifully when you're trying to win now with an aging roster, but it can become absolutely catastrophic if those future years arrive and you're suddenly drowning in dead money with no flexibility to improve your team. Dak Prescott's contract is the perfect example of this dangerous game. His current deal already has some of the most complicated cap mechanics in the NFL, and if the Cowboys restructure it again to create immediate space, they're going to push enormous cap hits into 2027, 2028, 2029, and potentially even 2030. We're talking about years where Prescott's cap number could balloon to absolutely unsustainable levels, potentially hamstringing the franchise's ability to build around him even if he's still playing at a high level. And if his performance declines or he suffers a major injury, the Cowboys could find themselves in a situation where they're paying premium quarterback money for declining production with no viable escape route. Deron Bland presents another fascinating case study in the risks of aggressive contract restructuring. Bland just signed a 4-year extension this past season with the first 2 years fully guaranteed, but he's now coming off his second foot surgery in as many years. Do the Cowboys really want to push more of his salary into future years when there are legitimate questions about his long-term health and durability? His fully guaranteed money ends after this season, which gives Dallas a potential out in 2027 if they don't restructure his deal now. It's a classic risk-reward calculation. They could create immediate cap space by restructuring, but they'd be betting that Bland's foot issues are behind him and won't impact his future performance. Beyond Pickens, the Cowboys have several other key free agents they need to address, and each one requires money that needs to come from somewhere. Javonte Williams had an absolute breakout season, posting over 1,300 total yards with 35 receptions and 13 touchdowns. He proved he can be a legitimate 3-down back in this league, and his market value is estimated at around 3 years for $22 million or approximately $7.3 million per year. That might not sound like much compared to Pickens' potential contract, but when you're already $39 million over the cap, every dollar matters. The Cowboys have mentioned multiple times that they want to keep Williams, but wanting to keep someone and actually being able to afford to keep them are two very different things. Then there's Jadeveon Clowney, the veteran pass rusher who provided crucial leadership and production for a defense that desperately needed both. His market value is projected at a one-year deal worth approximately $5.7 million. Again, not a franchise-altering number in isolation, but when you start adding up all these smaller contracts alongside the massive Pickens decision, you quickly realize just how tight the Cowboys' financial situation really is. And let's not forget about Brandon Aubrey, the kicker, who was one of the few bright spots in an otherwise disappointing season. Kickers don't command huge contracts, but good kickers are worth keeping, and that's another expense that needs to be factored into the equation. If you add up just the projected contracts for Pickens, Williams, and Clowney, you're looking at approximately $43.6 million in new money. Remember, the Cowboys need to clear at least $30 million just to get under the cap threshold. That means they need to create nearly $75 million in cap space just to sign these three players, and that doesn't include Aubrey or any of the depth pieces they want to bring back or any potential free agent additions from outside the organization. The math simply doesn't work without massive restructures or painful cuts somewhere on the roster. This is why the Pickens decision is so monumentally important. If the Cowboys choose to franchise tag him rather than sign him to a long-term deal, they save some immediate cap space because the franchise tag number, while expensive, is more manageable in year one than the first-year cap hit of a massive extension. That gives them a bit more financial flexibility to address other needs, bring back some of their own free agents, and maybe even make a modest splash in free agency. But it also means they're likely looking at losing Pickens after next season when they'd either have to franchise tag him again at an even higher number or watch him walk in free agency. Conversely, if they commit to Pickens with a 4-year contract worth $120 million or more, they secure one of the league's best young receivers for the prime years of his career, but they severely limit their ability to do much else in free agency. They'd essentially be going all in on keeping their core together and hoping that improved coaching and the addition of a couple of draft picks can address the defensive issues that plagued them throughout last season. It's a legitimate strategy, but it's not the aggressive free agency approach that many frustrated Cowboys fans are desperately hoping to see. The defensive side of the ball is where things get really concerning for Dallas. They were absolutely torched last season, giving up big plays with alarming regularity and failing to generate consistent pressure or create turnovers at critical moments. Defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer's scheme never quite clicked, and there are serious questions about whether the personnel on hand can execute at the level required to compete with the elite offenses in the NFC. Ideally, the Cowboys would love to go out and sign a premier edge rusher or an elite safety or a game-changing linebacker who can transform their defense overnight. But those kinds of players command massive contracts that Dallas simply cannot afford if they're also committing huge money to Pickens and their other offensive pieces. This is where the draft becomes absolutely critical. The Cowboys have 2 first-round picks this year, which gives them a golden opportunity to address multiple defensive needs with premium talent. If they can nail both of those selections and grab an impact edge rusher and a playmaking safety or linebacker, they can dramatically improve their defense without breaking the bank in free agency. Smart drafting has always been the way successful teams maintain competitive rosters while managing the salary cap, and Dallas has no choice but to hit home runs with these high picks if they want to compete next season. There's also the question of what Jerry Jones really means when he talks about busting the budget. Does he genuinely mean he's willing to go into luxury cap territory and absorb dead money hits to win now? Or is this just another example of his tendency to talk a big game without following through? Cowboys fans have heard these promises before, only to watch the team sit out the first wave of free agency while all the premium talent signs elsewhere, leaving Dallas to pick through the bargain bin hoping to find hidden gems and overlooked veterans who can contribute on cheap contracts. The harsh reality is that the Cowboys have consistently failed to be aggressive when it matters most in free agency. Year after year, they talk about being active and making moves, and year after year, they take the conservative approach, relying on the draft and hoping their existing roster can take the next step. Sometimes that strategy works, and sometimes it leaves glaring holes that doom their season before it even begins. This offseason feels different because the Pickens situation forces them to make a definitive choice. they can't kick this can down the road. They have to decide right now whether they're all in on this core or whether they're willing to let their best receiver walk in hopes of spreading that money around to address multiple needs. What makes this situation even more complicated is the uncertainty around the actual salary cap number. Projections have it landing between $295 million and $305 million. But that's a $10 million range that could dramatically impact the Cowboys' flexibility. If it comes in at the low end, they're in even worse shape than currently projected. If it comes in at the high end, they gain a bit of breathing room. Either way, they're still facing monumental decisions that will define the next several years of Cowboys football. Some fans and analysts argue that the Cowboys should absolutely prioritize keeping Pickens no matter what it costs. He's a young, dynamic playmaker who consistently wins one-on-one matchups and gives Dak Prescott a legitimate number one receiver to target in crucial situations. Losing him would be devastating to the offense and would likely set them back years as they try to find a replacement either through the draft or free agency. From this perspective, you pay Pickens whatever it takes, restructure every contract you can, and figure out the defense through the draft and bargain free agents. The opposing argument suggests that paying Pickens massive money would be a mistake that limits their flexibility for years to come. They could franchise tag him, get one more year of elite production at a slightly more manageable cap number, and then let him walk next offseason while using the money they saved to rebuild the defense and add multiple impact players rather than putting all their eggs in one very expensive basket. It's the classic debate between concentrating your resources on a few elite players versus spreading your money around to address multiple needs with good but not great talent. If the Cowboys do nothing in free agency beyond re-signing their own players like Pickens, Williams, Clowney, and Aubrey, would that really be such a disaster? If they use their draft capital wisely and hit on both first-round picks while finding some solid contributors in the middle rounds, they could absolutely field a competitive team next season. The offense has the pieces to be elite if the offensive line stays healthy, and Prescott plays at the level he's capable of reaching. The defense would still have questions, but a great draft and improved coaching could address many of those concerns without requiring massive free agent expenditures. The flip side of that argument is that conservative team building has repeatedly failed to deliver championships for Dallas. At some point, you have to be willing to push your chips to the center of the table and go for it. You have to be willing to make the bold move that other teams aren't willing to make. You have to take calculated risks if you want to break through and compete with the true elite teams in the conference. Playing it safe and hoping everything falls perfectly into place through the draft has resulted in decades of playoff disappointments and early exits. Jerry Jones keeps talking about wanting to be the owner with the most Super Bowl victories, but wanting something and doing what's necessary to achieve it are entirely different things. He's proven he can build competitive teams that win regular season games and make the playoffs, but he hasn't proven he can build a championship roster in the modern NFL's salary cap era. Every decision he makes this offseason will be scrutinized through that lens. Is this the move of an owner desperate to win one more ring before his time runs out, or is this more of the same conservative approach wrapped in aggressive rhetoric? The Cowboys are at a genuine crossroads. The decisions they make regarding George Pickens and how they manipulate their salary cap will reverberate for years. They can create $100 million in cap space if they're willing to accept the long-term consequences. They can keep their offensive weapons together if they're willing to sacrifice defensive additions. They can be aggressive in free agency if they're willing to let Pickens walk or tag him for a year. Every path forward requires difficult choices and painful sacrifices. There is no perfect solution that allows them to keep everyone, sign everyone, and fix every problem. The art of NFL roster construction is all about making the least bad decision and hoping it works out better than the alternatives. What's absolutely certain is that Cowboys fans will be watching every move with intense scrutiny. The organization has promised for years that they're on the verge of something special, that they're building toward championship contention, that the pieces are almost all in place. This offseason will reveal whether those promises have any substance behind them or whether it's just more empty rhetoric from an owner who loves the spotlight but struggles to make the tough calls when it matters most. The ESPN Insider Report has pulled back the curtain and shown us the financial reality Dallas is facing. Now we get to watch in real time as Jerry Jones and his front office either rise to the occasion or stumble through another disappointing offseason that leaves their fans wondering what might have been. This is the moment where the Cowboys either prove they're serious about competing for championships or reveal themselves as just another team that talks a big game but fails to back it up with decisive action. The financial tools exist to create massive cap space. The talent exists to build a championship roster. The question is whether the decision makers have the courage and wisdom to use those tools properly and construct something special. Every Cowboys fan should be paying attention because what happens over the next few weeks will shape this franchise for the next 5 years. So what do you think? Should the Cowboys pay George Pickens whatever it takes to keep him long term? Or should they franchise tag him and use the saved money to address the defense? Are you confident that Jerry Jones will finally bust the budget and make the aggressive moves necessary to win? Or do you think this is just more talk from an owner who always finds a way to disappoint? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to hear from real Cowboys fans about how you think this should play out. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the financial reality facing America's team, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss any updates as this story develops, and turn on notifications because there's going to be major news breaking constantly over the next few weeks. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an absolutely wild Cowboys offseason, and you're not going to want to miss a single moment.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.